What I like to do myself is more of a jazz hands.
For decades, this made in Alberta board game has drawn a cult following from around the world.
Somehow those 3 levels of parts now are all randomized.
Sanford Grieve loaned out his copy of the Oilman Game years ago. He never got it back. It was only when he tried to find a replacement that he realized he had competition, a lot of it.
The prices started to go sky high. The demand of these old games was going up, and what originally was selling in the 90s for $42.95, people were asking up to $500 on eBay and Kijiji for one of these games because they just had to have it, and I had to have one too.
That search inspired him to go into business. Grieve and his partner bought the game rights and original production molds, and for the past few years they've been manufacturing it out of this warehouse.
It's just such a good fit because we're oil men, that's what feeds our families, and to have an Oilman game is something that that has a direct connection with what we do for a living. It's pretty cool.
See if we can get that jazz hands.
Each new game starts with a shake of the board. The shaking rearranges pieces below the game's surface, making each session unique. Players bid on land and drill to find hidden oil. From there, it's all strategy.
It's unique, when you compare it to all the other board games out there. There's nothing like it. It has a feel and a heft and all the internal parts that you don't know what's in there. It's kind of like the Cadbury secret.
The game is manufactured in Drayton Valley, an area known for its vast oil fields, in an industry that's had its ups and downs over the past 3 decades, and the board game has too. The game was created in the 80s but was discontinued.
This would be about the 3rd version.
Entrepreneur Bud Norris first heard of the Oilman Game in the 1990s. He ran a game shop in Red Deer and says customers constantly asked about it. So he bought the rights and started manufacturing it himself in 1994.
When we took it over in one little store in Red Deer, in our store, we sold 700 games in a matter of 4 months. And that was a lot, was the backlog of people wanting that game and the cult that it had created.
Norris wrapped production around 2005, but says demand for the game never dropped, especially among entrepreneurs and people who worked in the oil industry.
We've built 25,000 of them, and they literally were all across the world. Russia, South America, Australia, typically anywhere where there was oil field activity or oil and gas activity, guys would take it with them.
Grieve says he and his partner have already shipped out several thousand more across the globe.
It's quite an interesting mix of people, all different age groups. We just want to get the word out that this game is being manufactured again because it was away from the public for 15 years.
Now, Grieve is looking forward to a time when people can gather and play board games in person, hoping the company itself will strike oil in sales. Travis McEwen, CBC News, Edmonton.